Good afternoon. How are you? It's late afternoon because otherwise I'm afraid I'd be in a hot box going around. It's 87, so that's better than 94, 95, 96. And Thomas Jefferson has not noticed any uh, breeze, if you will, so far. But it's really pretty. Just take a look. See, look how wonderful it is out here. It's a marvelous experience. So everybody's talking about the debate on Thursday, and let's talk about that for a few moments because it seems to me everybody misses the obvious, which is, okay, knowing who Trump is, what is he going to do? Now, I had a debate coach in high school, and when we were, I guess, practicing is what we were doing, and he said at one point, when in doubt, shout. So in other words, double down, though doubtful, on what you're saying, as if you're even more confident it's true, perhaps misleading people because you seem so certain that you're right when you're bluffing, that might carry the day. And my objection was, yes, but if you do that, first of all, I don't think you should do it, but if you do it, then what you've done is open yourself up to a real credibility problem. Because if you're in doubt and you're wrong and the other person knows it, you lose all cogent ability to persuade anybody, including in a debate, the judges. Now, having said that, Trump is a person who doesn't have doubt because he does not look for the truth. He looks for the lever that works. So he looks for the statement that fits the occasion, like a used car salesman, except the duration of his lie is longer than the duration of someone trying to sell you some lemon car. But that's what he's doing. He's selling us a lemon car. He's saying the thing can do 200 miles an hour in 20 seconds after you put your foot to the pedal. And that's what Trump does all the time. So his manner of lying, to begin with, is, first of all, constant, without limitation, without hesitation. So, what can we expect from him at the debate? Well, suppose he did that kind of zombie trance walk that he did with Hillary Clinton. What do we do about that? Now, if I'm the host, I stop and take him back. If I'm on Trump's opposition, if I'm with Biden, beforehand I anticipate that. I have them close by, and they come out to lead him back to his rostrum. In other words, we know the man. Do we think that he can, if he shows up, and I'm assuming he will because in a kind of bizarre way he's afraid not to show up, I would think, but we'll see. So he shows up, and for 90 minutes, he has to, in the best pose he could do, he has to be the quiet presidential guy and carry it off. I don't believe he can do it for 90 minutes. And then there's a question, okay, so if I'm advising Trump, how does he handle it? Now, defense counsel, of which I've done a fair amount of work, civil and criminal, if you don't get to be the last person to talk to the jury, what you do is when you finish, you say, and ask counsel here about such and such, okay? So if you're Trump, maybe, you have a series of these questions. You say something like, so tell us, what drug did you take so that you can come out here and sound better than you really are capable of being? Or any number of questions. Now, how does the Biden team handle that? Are they thinking of handling that? Are they thinking that this is a real debate or this is a performance that has significant debate opportunities about the most critical questions facing our still young republic? So, Biden should say something like, I don't need that shit. And maybe he should say it that way. I don't need that shit. But you talk about it so much, it's pretty clear to me that that's what you do. That's the only way you come out here with your Adderall or your other stuff, because you can't do it straight. We see it. You can't even stay awake in court because you can't take the drugs there. You can't replenish them. Now, is that exactly what he should do? You have to fit the response to the energy that requires a response. So whatever they're doing in the airplane hangar where they've set up where he stands behind a rostrum and practices, you have to mix it up. You have to be able to improvise. Now, during the State of the Union, it appeared that he improvised. But did he anticipate that when he got to that point in the speech, he would say things, he would get a reaction, and he'd build upon it? In other words, you have to be flexible enough and have the kind of person who can roll with the punches and roll them back onto Trump. And that's the exercise they should be doing for this so-called debate. Now, I may be wrong, but I haven't heard anybody say this, and if, okay, let's say he brings a little microphone with him and he puts it on so that it's loud enough that it can go through Biden's microphone. Now, do you think he could do that? Could he carry that off? Would he try to do that? I don't know. Would they put a device on him that could interrupt the signal? So I don't know what they're doing by way of security to make this work. But Trump's objective is to be himself. And at some point he's going to say enough of this shit and be who he is, if Biden is on his game. And so that's my 2 cents and 25 cents on the debate. There's bad things going on in court this week. Now we're waiting for the Supreme Court to make a decision about the immunity of Trump, up to and including shooting someone in Times Square and getting away with it because he is El Presidente, And is that going to come down tomorrow? Is it going to come down Thursday, the day of the debate? Is it going to come down Friday after the debate? And is Biden going to say something, if given the opportunity to say, you don't need immunity if you don't commit crimes. You don't need immunity if your judgment is sound. You don't need immunity if you believe in democracy instead of seeing yourself as a dictator. There has to be these statements. And we'll find out if they're there. My reading on, performers, speakers, and so forth, is what I've said once before, which is that we have sort of like different colors. And if we play outside those colors, for example, if we whisper and we care, that's one color. You could call it yellow. If I rage and I speak with a force of many, then that's another color. But if I have a persuading, luring, comfortable way about me, or these different voices. Now, Biden has only two colors. He whispers and he shouts. That's it. Those are his two colors. A couple of times I've seen him move from that, but those are his home bases. That's where he goes. Trump is more like an actor who is entirely unconscious that he's naked to the crowd, but he chooses the nakedness they see, and he has several colors. And that's another problem with the matchup. Now, talking about judges, let's talk about Judge Luce Cannon in Florida. There was a report today that Monica Lewinsky, who is quite a confident woman in her own right, aside from the torrid descriptions of the Clinton assignation, if you will. And she said today that she hopes that Judge Cannon will be impeached. I agree with her. I think she's absolutely right. I mean, she speaks with force. All these other men and women, they run around like chickens with their heads cut off and can't figure out what to do. And one of the more recent instances has been the 3 days of hearing down in Florida before Cannon, brought on by Trump's people. And Trump's lawyers have been making motions. They could be handled by a magistrate, could be handled on the papers, shouldn't require much thought. And the judges even said some things in that direction. So counsel on Jack Smith's team today accused Trump's lawyers of hijacking the hearings with issues that are frivolous and have no basis. And what did the judge do? She said, there's no hijacking going on here. And she cut him off for fear perhaps that the image of a critical headline danced in her head that would show off Trump's people for wasting time and delaying, which is exactly what she's doing. Exactly what she's doing. Should she be impeached? Absolutely. Should we risk having her on the bench for this or any other case? Absolutely not. Trump to her is like Assange to others. In other words, Assange has spent 14 years because he has information and documents he shouldn't have. He spent 5 years in a London jail, and finally we've cut a deal with him that we're not going to execute him by going to trial, and we're going to allow him to have time served for the 5 years that he was in a London prison, and we're letting him go home ill to Australia. Sound like anything like what Russia might do with someone? Now, talking about Russia, of course, if you think about it, Putin is a really good friend and ally and supporter of Trump. So maybe Trump can get a deal like Snowden had, and maybe he should pick it up now and get the hell out of the country. What do you think? So, is Trump Assange light? Yeah, I think so. And even as I say that, there have been more documents shown to be hanging around Trump's location, and Cannon is unmoved by it. What America does she support when she took her oath of office to uphold and preserve the Constitution? Now, I have sung the praise of the judge in New York. But think about it. He's been asked, and it just goes to show it pays to ask and to ask and to ask. And Trump's people believe that, and it's paying off for them because they asked the judge to modify or eliminate his gag order. The prosecutors, Bragg's people, said, hey, don't do that. And what the judge did was say, well, yeah, you can attack the witnesses. No, the rule should be that the witnesses should not have abuse before they testify, while they testify, nor abused afterwards. Now, I suppose maybe the judge thinks it's only Michael Cohen, but that's not the case. There are private people that do not have a megaphone, anything like the president, who cannot respond to these attacks. And that should be the end of it. I didn't think that judge would have a weaker spine than I expected. You just have to wonder where these people come from. Well, changing another topic, which will come up Thursday, I suppose, if it's not a clown show. There have been 60 Nobel Prize winners who said that a second Trump presidency would ignite inflation. and we've already heard him. He favors tariffs of 60 to 100%. He wants to make the tax cuts permanent. How do you have a budget? How do you have a government with that? Oh yeah, these guys, they want to tear down the government, or at least the one we have. And I'm somewhat amused by the Surgeon General, who wanted to give warnings about young people using social media. And now he's decided to say, I don't agree with the general proposition. It is that we have a public health crisis over guns. So what are we going to do? Put a warning label on that AR-15? Finally, we see that there really is such a thing as global warming when we have excess heat, people suffering and dying, fires and floods. So, if anybody thinks this election is not the most important in their life, then they've lived longer and they go back to World War I. And there may be some few people in America in that category. But otherwise, I would say this is the riskiest election in my lifetime, and probably many of yours. And it seems to me we have to do two things. We have to kick our political leaders in the ass and tell them to do their jobs, to fight, and to stop slipping the punch and ducking the confrontation that's absolutely necessary. And that goes for judges and prosecutors, it goes for congressmen, it goes for everybody, it goes for political leaders and the machinery, the springs and wheels that turn so smoothly in the darkness, but then give us a false picture the rest of the time. And it's up to us to talk about it on social media, apologies to the Surgeon General, and to do what we can locally by way of contributions, by voting, by encouraging others to vote. And yes, there are positions that Biden has taken that I'm very uncomfortable with. And but it pales if there's a way to make a contrast between who Biden is and what Trump is. Trump is a clear and present danger to everything we hold dear, if what we hold dear is freedom, equality before the law. And that's my view of America. It's not Trump's. Trump, it's like he comes into a Macy's on the day of a sale and he kicks and pushes everybody out of the way to get whatever it is he wants from that table of cloth. Except it's not a table of cloth. It's a table filled with our rights and with our history and with presumptions and with decorum, all of which he disregards. So, that's what I got to say here in my Cathedral of Trees, and I'll be out tomorrow if I can. Bye-bye.